Imagine, if you will, the absolute definition of a perfect Sunday morning. You're sitting in this lush, overgrown garden in a tiny, almost hidden village called Three Pines. It's mid-August, so you have that gentle heat, the air is fresh, and you're just surrounded by the scent of phlox and morning glories.
It sounds perfect.
It is. You've got a steaming cafe au lait in one hand, a buttery croissant in the other, and this is the most important part, absolute silence.
No traffic.
No sirens. Just
Yeah.
the bees and the birds.
Okay.
It's the very definition of a sanctuary.
It sounds like a dream. It's the kind of place you'd go to when you need to, I don't know, wash the rest of the world off your skin.
Exactly. And that is precisely why Chief Inspector Armand Gamache goes there. He's the head of homicide for the Sûreté de Quebec.
So he's a man who sees the absolute worst of humanity Monday through Friday.
Every day. Three Pines is where he heals. It's where he puts himself back together. But on this particular Sunday, that sanctuary is breached.
And not the way you'd think.
No. It's not breached by a gunman kicking down the gate or a scream in the distance. It's breached by something so much more mundane, yet somehow more intrusive.
A phone ringing.
A phone ringing.
That's such a powerful image, that persistent, electronic intrusion into the natural world. And knowing Gamache, he probably tried to ignore it at first.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He sits there trying to pretend it's not happening. He's staring at the flowers, trying to hold on to that piece.
But the phone just keeps ringing.
It stops, then starts again. It's persistent, it's urgent, and eventually the cop in him just takes over. He knows that answering that phone is going to dismantle the piece he's built, but he answers it anyway.
And that is the inciting incident right there. That one decision to pick up the receiver pulls him out of the garden and throws him right back into the line of fire. It sets off this chain of events that is honestly baffling. At first glance, anyway.
Baffling is the right word. Because it starts with a break-in at his pied-à-terre in Montreal. Now, Gamache is a high-profile target. You'd expect a break-in to be an act of intimidation
Or a frantic search for files, something like that.
Exactly. But this was weird.
It was surgical. That's what stands out to me. The intruder didn't smash a window. They had a key.
A key.
They bypassed the alarm system, they triggered a sensor in a way that just looked like a technical glitch. They walked into the home of the most powerful police officer in the province, and they ignored everything of value.
Right. There's art on the walls, expensive electronics, personal items that could be used for blackmail. And what do they take?
An old summer coat.
Right.
A parka.
A coat.
A coat. It makes absolutely zero sense from a, criminal profit perspective.
Okay.
If you are risking prison time to break into Gamache's apartment, you don't steal a jacket unless you're freezing to death.
But this wasn't about the object itself. It was a message.
It feels incredibly personal, doesn't it? Like someone is saying, I can get into your closet, I can touch your clothes, I can get to your skin.
Yes.
Exactly. It's a demonstration of access. It's a power play. And the message becomes explicit the very next morning because the coat isn't gone forever.
It's returned. It shows up at the Sûreté headquarters.
Wrapped in a newspaper.
Which is just brazen. Walking into police headquarters to return stolen property.
That takes nerve.
Yeah.
But inside the pocket of that returned coat, Gamache finds a note. It's not a ransom note. It's polite, almost apologetic, a request to meet.
And this is where we get our first real clue about the personality of this thief. The note asks to meet at a specific cafe, Café Olympico. But it doesn't use the official name.
No, it calls the place Open Tonight.
I love this detail. It anchors the story so firmly in the local culture of Montreal.
It really does. Café Olympico is a real institution in the Mile End neighborhood. It's famous for its coffee, the crowds.
And the nickname Open Den Night comes from the neon sign, right? The letters 24 acres fell off years ago.
So the sign literally just reads Open Den Night.
Yeah.
By using that specific nickname, the thief is signaling something really important to Gamache.
He's saying, I am a local.
I know this city, I know the streets, I know where you feel safe, and I know where the real locals go. It's a shibboleth. It proves he's not an outsider.
So Gamache goes, of course he goes. He's curious, he's fearless, and he wants to know who has the sheer audacity to steal his coat just to get his attention.
So he heads to the cafe, and the man he meets. Well, let's talk about Charles.
Charles Langlois. This character is such a fascinating study in contradictions.
He really is. When Gamache arrives, he's probably expecting, I don't know, a mastermind, a professional spy.
So cool and collected.
Instead, he finds a wreck. Charles is young, maybe late 20s, but he looks like he's lived a dozen lifetimes on the street. He's frantic. He's got worn hands, dirt under his fingernails.
And he's eating a cannoli.
Yes, and making a mess of it. Powdered sugar and cream everywhere. It's such a humanizing detail.
It is.
It instantly strips away the villain archetype. This is just a scared kid with a sugar rush.
But despite the mess and the nerves, he's articulate, he's smart, and he tells Gamache straight up, I didn't know it was your house.
He claims he was hired to do the break-in. Just a job for quick cash. But here's the pivot point. If it was just a quick cash grab, he would have taken his payment and vanished.
Right. He wouldn't be sitting there having coffee with the chief inspector of homicide.
No way. He's there because he's terrified. He tells Gamache that he was instructed to steal the coat specifically to get Gamache's attention.
So the theft was basically a marketing stunt, a way to force a meeting.
And Charles is caught between two massive fears. He's terrified of his boss, the person who hired him, but he's even more terrified of what that boss is planning. He drops a bombshell on Gamache. He leans in, lowers his voice, and says, the Sûreté is compromised.
That has to be a cold shower for Gamache. To be told by a street kid that his own house, the police force he's dedicated his life to, has a leak.
It isolates him instantly. Whether Charles knows he's doing or not, he's using a classic psychological warfare tactic.
He's cutting him off.
He's cutting Gamache off from his support system. Gamache can't call for backup if he doesn't know who's listening on the radio. He's completely alone at that table.
And speaking of that table, there's a moment during this conversation that seems clumsy at first. Charles spills a glass of water, but you think it's actually the key to the whole thing.
It is the thematic anchor of the entire mystery. Charles is agitated, his hands are shaking, and he knocks over a glass of water. Now, Gamache is a cop. His brain immediately goes to, he's creating a diversion.
He's trying to destroy evidence.
Right. Gamache assumes Charles is trying to ruin a piece of paper or distract him so he can run.
But Charles doesn't reach for any papers. He doesn't bolt.
No, he just stares at the water spreading on the table. And you have to remember, earlier, he refused to drink water himself. He makes this cryptic comment about the water not being healthy, not being safe.
At the time, with all the noise of the cafe and Charles's frantic energy, it just sounds like paranoia.
It does. It sounds like the conspiracy theories of a recovering addict who doesn't trust the system.
Just noise.
Exactly. It's easily dismissed as noise, but in hindsight, that refusal to drink the tap water is the most important sentence spoken in the entire investigation. He isn't being paranoid. He's being precise.
So the tension is just building and building. Charles is on the verge of cracking. He's about to give Gamache a name. They stand up, they leave the cafe, and they walk out onto the sidewalk of the Mile End.
It's a busy day, people are everywhere, and then chaos.
Rather, silence. And that's the terrifying part.
An electric SUV. Black, tinted windows, it just accelerates from the curb.
See, in the movies, you hear the engine rev, you hear the tires squeal, you have that split second of auditory warning.
But an electric car is a phantom. It's just the sound of tires on pavement, a whisper. Gamache sees it at the last possible millisecond. And this moment, this is where we have to talk about the moral arithmetic of Armand Gamache.
The trolley problem.
It is the literal trolley problem, playing out in real time. He has less than a second. Standing right there, directly in the path of the car, is a young girl, Patricia, and her grandfather.
And Gamache reacts on pure instinct. He dives.
He tackles them. He shoves the girl and the grandfather out of the trajectory of the SUV.
He saves the innocent civilians. He's a hero.
He is, but physics is cruel. By lunging toward the family, he lunges away from Charles Langlois.
And Charles is hit.
The SUV strikes him without tapping the brakes. It just speeds off. A hit and run executed with military precision. And suddenly the sidewalk is a crime scene.
Gamache is on the ground. He's battered. He's bleeding. But he crawls over to Charles. The man is dying. And this scene, it breaks my heart every time I think about it.
It's brutal.
He holds his hand. He's desperate. He's begging him for a name. Who did this? Who is the boss? And Charles, he only has breath for one word.
Family.
Family. And then he's gone.
And that word, it just becomes a ghost that haunts Gamache for the rest of the story. What did it mean?
Was Charles asking Gamache to tell his own family he loved them?
Or was he describing the people who killed him? A family organization.
Or maybe a warning. Protect your family.
It's so ambiguous and so devastating. But let's look at what this does to Gamache's head. He saved the child. That's good. But in doing so, he feels like he sacrificed his source.
He feels responsible. He feels like he traded Charles's life for the girls.
And that guilt, that is the fuel that drives the rest of this deep dive. Gamache owes Charles now. He owes him the truth. And to get that truth, he has to figure out who Charles Langlois actually was.
Right.
Because the image of the homeless addict, that falls apart the moment they start digging.
So Gamache and his second-in-command, Jean-Guy Beauvoir, they start looking into the victim's background. And it turns out Charles wasn't just drifting.
Not at all. He had a history of addiction, yes. He was estranged from his family, who, by the way, seem almost relieved that he's dead, which is a whole other tragedy in itself.
That's just awful.
It is. But Charles had cleaned himself up. He wasn't just surviving, he was working. He was a scientist.
A marine biologist.
A marine biologist working for a group called Action Quebec Bleu.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't some massive government agency. It's a tiny shoestring nonprofit.
Run out of a cluttered office.
Exactly. Run by a woman named Margot Chalifot, operating on passion and caffeine.
And their mission is water security.
Water security. They monitor pollution levels in Quebec's vast network of rivers and lakes. They are the watchdogs that nobody pays attention to.
Until now. Because when Gamache goes to their office, he realizes that someone has been paying very close attention to Charles.
Immediately, things look wrong. Charles's laptop is missing.
Gone.
His field notebooks are gone. Gamache goes to Charles's apartment, a tiny place, but it's been tossed. And the most telling detail? There was a large map of Quebec on his wall.
And it's gone.
Ripped down. You can see the tape marks where it used to be.
That is chilling. It means the killer wasn't just angry, they were methodical.
They were scrubbing the data.
Yes, they wanted to hide where Charles was looking.
Precisely. If they just wanted him dead, they wouldn't have taken the map. Taking the map means the location is the secret. At this stage, Gamache's working theory is, illegal dumping.
Right. Plausible. Maybe a mining company or a factory is pumping toxic sludge into a northern lake. Charles found it, and they killed him to silence him.
Which, to be fair, is a plausible motive for murder. Corporate cover-ups happen all the time. People get killed for money.
But it doesn't fit the scale of the violence, does it?
Not at all. Think about it. Breaking into the home of the head of homicide to plant a message. Executing a man in broad daylight on a Montreal street with a silent electric vehicle. That is high-risk behavior.
Extremely high risk.
That isn't damage control for a factory. That suggests something far worse. It suggests resources. It suggests arrogance.
And it suggests power. Which brings us to the political connection. Because this investigation takes a hard turn from environmental crime to national conspiracy.
It absolutely does. John Gay finds a security video. It's from a homeless shelter called The Mission, where Charles volunteered.
So Charles was a scientist by day and a volunteer at a shelter by night.
He was trying to give back. He was trying to redeem himself. But the video shows him in a corner of the shelter having this intense, heated argument with a woman.
And she doesn't look like she belongs there.
No. She's wearing a hoodie, trying to be discreet, but her posture, her clothes, she's completely out of place. And when Gamache sees her face on the screen, he recognizes her instantly.
Jean Caron.
Just hearing that name changes the temperature in the room for Gamache. Jean Caron is the chief of staff to the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada.
One of the most powerful, unelected officials in the country.
Absolutely. But for Gamache, it's not just about her title. It's personal history, isn't it?
It's a very dark history. Years ago, Caron tried to pressure Gamache to cover up a crime for her boss.
And Gamache, being Gamache, refused.
He refused. And in retaliation, she didn't just attack him professionally, she went after his son, Daniel.
Which is crossing a line.
A huge one. She dug up Daniel's past, his struggles, and tried to destroy the son to break the father.
That is just visceral.
Mm-hmm.
So now Gamache sees this woman who tried to dismantle his family, secretly meeting with a homeless marine biologist in a shelter.
That is not a coincidence.
No. It connects the street to the state. And it begs the question, why? Why is a high-level political operative talking to Charles Langlois? To understand that, we have to look at her boss. The Deputy Prime Minister has just been handed a new, massive portfolio.
He was the Minister of the Environment, right?
Yes. But he's just been given a second hat, Minister of Counterterrorism.
Whoa. Okay, let's pause on that for a second. Environment and counterterrorism. That is a terrifying Venn diagram.
It's the intersection where nature becomes a national security issue. If Charles was finding dirty water and he's talking to the right hand of the man in charge of counterterrorism.
We aren't talking about pollution anymore.
We are talking about a weapon.
This is the moment where the stakes just go through the roof. Gamache realizes they aren't looking for a spill. They're looking for an attack.
The threat analysis changes completely. Gamache suspects a deliberate attack on the drinking water supply of Montreal. And we aren't talking about making people sick with a little E. coli.
No, this is something else entirely.
We are talking about biological or chemical agents, neurotoxins, anthrax, ricin, substances that are stable in water and lethal in microscopic doses.
If you poison the water supply of a major city,
Hmm.
the casualty estimates would be tens of thousands.
Easily. And the panic, it would be total societal breakdown. No water for drinking, for hospitals, for sanitation. It would be the end of the city as a functioning entity.
And this puts Gamache in an impossible moral dilemma.
This is the part of the story that really keeps me up at night. He knows, or at least he strongly suspects, that the water is compromised. But he can't say anything.
It's the burden of leadership, isn't it?
It is. If he goes public, if he holds a press conference today and says, stop drinking the tap water, he tips off the terrorists.
They'll know he's onto them.
They might accelerate the attack. They might dump the rest of the poison immediately. Or they might move the operation to a different reservoir where he can't stop it.
So to catch them, he has to let them continue their plot. He has to let the city keep drinking the water while he hunts for them.
He has to gamble with the lives of the population to save them in the long run. But, and this is the part that makes him so human and so flawed, he doesn't leave everyone in the dark.
No. He makes a call.
He calls his wife, Reine Marie. He calls his children. He tells them to pack up the grandchildren and go to Three Pines immediately.
Because Three Pines is on well water.
It's off the grid. It's safe. He saves his own blood.
It's a moment that makes you uncomfortable. He's the hero. He's the man we root for. But he carves out an exception for his family.
He does. He leaves his colleagues, his neighbors, the random people on the street to potentially drink poison while ensuring his grandkids are safe.
There's a vlogger in this story, someone who hates the sûreté, who attacks him on this later. She asks him bluntly, you saved yourself. You saved your family. What about us?
It's a devastating question because it's true. It cuts to the core of ethical leadership. Can you forgive yourself for saving the world if you let your own family die?
It's an impossible choice.
If he had left his grandkids in Montreal, he would be a monster to his family. But by saving them, he feels like a monster to the public. He's carrying the crushing weight of that hypocrisy.
He knows it's unfair, but he does it anyway.
And that guilt compounds the guilt he feels about Charles. He is piling stones onto his own shoulders.
So while he's wrestling with this ethical nightmare, the investigation is moving forward. And we need to talk about the clues, because this isn't just a political thriller. It's a puzzle.
It really is. And the solution involves a monk and a cocktail.
The monk and the cocktail. It sounds like the start of a bad joke, doesn't it?
It does. But this is deduction at its finest. It brings us back to the stolen coat.
Right. When the coat was returned, we mentioned the note from Charles. But there was another piece of paper in the pocket, wasn't there?
Yes. A scrap of paper with a handwritten list. Thyme, nutmeg, mace.
It looks like a shopping list for a spice rack. Or maybe a recipe for a cake. Gamache didn't know what to make of it at first.
It seemed completely irrelevant. But then, totally separately, a clue appears in Three Pines, in the village chapel.
The chapel.
Yes. A guest had been staying at the local B&B run by Olivier and Gabri. They described him as an elderly, polite man, paid cash, kept to himself.
Sang beautifully in his room.
Sang beautifully in his room. But one night, he went into the kitchen and taught them how to make a specific cocktail.
The last word.
A classic pre-prohibition drink. It's equal parts gin, lime juice, maraschino liqueur, and this is the crucial part, green chartreuse.
Chartreuse. That's the herbal liqueur made by the Carthusian monks in France.
Yeah.
Right. The recipe is a secret known only to 2 monks at any given time.
Exactly. It's legendary for its complexity. So Gamache finds an envelope left by this mysterious guest in the chapel. He compares it to the list found in his coat, and he realizes they are 2 halves of the same document.
That click, that aha moment is so satisfying. How do they fit together?
The list in the coat was torn. The bottom line read, Angelica stems. Now, Angelica is a botanical. It's a real plant. It's used in chartreuse.
Okay.
It's named after an archangel because it was historically believed to cure the plague. It represents healing.
So it's a recipe for the liqueur.
That's what it looks like. But here's the kicker, and this is where the botany comes in. Visually, the Angelica plant looks almost identical to Cicuta maculata,
Which is...
water hemlock, one of the deadliest plants in North America.
Oh, wow.
So you have a plant that symbolizes healing Angelica, looking exactly like a plant that causes death hemlock, and you have a note in the chapel with a quote.
A quote from T.S. Eliot's play, Murder in the Cathedral.
Yes. Some malady is coming upon us. We wait.
Murder in the Cathedral. Betrayal in the holy place.
Gamache puts it all together. The elderly guest, Monsieur Gilbert, wasn't just a tourist. He is Dom Philippe. He is the abbot of the monastery Saint-Gilbert entre les loups.
Which translates to Saint Gilbert between the wolves.
And this is a reclusive order. These monks take vows of silence. They never leave the monastery. For the abbot himself to come to Three Pines.
It means the threat has breached the ultimate sanctuary.
Exactly. The two halves of the clue represent the two worlds colliding. One note came from the political world planted via Charles and Caron. The other came from the spiritual world via the abbot.
Heaven and hell are converging on this water supply.
And the list isn't a recipe for a cocktail, it's a warning. It implies that what looks safe, the water, the government, the sanctuary, the healing herb, is actually deadly.
The Angelica is actually hemlock.
The government official is actually a terrorist. The water is a weapon.
This realization shifts the entire geography of the story. The answer isn't in Montreal. It's not in the Prime Minister's office.
It's in the wilderness.
The monastery of Saint-Gilbert entre les loups is incredibly remote. It's deep in the forest, completely isolated, surrounded by a chain of pristine lakes.
If you wanted to test a waterborne bioweapon away from prying eyes, that is exactly where you would do it.
So Gamache knows he has to get there. He grabs Jean-Guy. They rush to the airport and commandeer a small Sûreté float plane.
But of course, because nothing can ever be easy for these two, the weather turns.
This brings us to the storm. And this isn't just a bit of rain, it's a biblical event.
They're flying a small tin can of a plane straight into a massive thunderstorm over the Canadian wilderness.
The description of this flight is absolutely terrifying. The turbulence, the lightning flashing all around them. Jean-Guy is terrified. He hates flying in the best of times. Gamache is gripping the controls.
It's a physical manifestation of the chaos they're flying into. They are suspended between the earth and the sky, completely hopeless. And in that moment, as the plane is plummeting toward the gray waves of the lake, Gamache prays.
But he doesn't just pray for safety, does he?
No, he prays for the truth. He reflects on that line from the chapel. Some malady is coming upon us. He knows that if they crash, the truth dies with them.
And if the truth dies, the city dies.
The clock is ticking on the water supply. Every minute they are in the air fighting this storm is a minute a child in Montreal might be filling a glass at the tap.
It leaves us literally midair. We are hurtling toward the abbot, toward the source of the poison, toward the confrontation with whatever darkness has taken over this monastery.
And the tension is unbearable because we know the cost of failure.
When you look at this entire arc, from the peace of the garden to the terror of the storm, what is the big takeaway here? We've got monks, politicians, biologists, and cops. What ties it all together?
I think the core theme really is sanctuary and how fragile it is.
Break that down for me.
Well, look at the locations. The story begins in Three Pines Gamache's personal sanctuary. That is violated by the phone call.
Okay.
Then we go to the mission, a sanctuary for the poor. That is violated by the conspiracy and the murder of Charles. Then we go to the monastery, a spiritual sanctuary.
Violated by the poison and the corruption.
Exactly. And finally, the water itself. Our bodies are a sanctuary. Water is the most basic element of life. It is the definition of purity.
And when you turn water into a weapon,
You are violating the sanctuary of the human body. The terror plot here isn't just about killing people. It's about invading the places where we feel safest. It's about total destabilization. It's making you afraid to turn on your own tap.
that is profoundly unsettling. It makes you realize that safety is an illusion we work very hard to maintain.
And it brings us right back to Gamache's choice. The vlogger's question. Do you save the world or do you save your family?
It's the question that defines him in this story. He wants to be a good man. But being a good man and being a good leader might be mutually exclusive in a crisis like this.
I don't think you can ever fully forgive yourself for that choice. If you save the world but let your family die, you're a monster to your kin. You have failed your most basic biological imperative.
And if you save your family and let the world burn,
You're a monster to society. Gamache chooses the middle path. Save the family, then try to save the world. But the guilt, he carries that forever. That's the burden of the hero. You carry the ghosts of the ones you didn't save, like Charles Langlois.
that is a heavy thought to leave on. From a stolen coat to the fate of a population. It's a reminder that sometimes the biggest threats come in the quietest packages. A drop of water, a note in a pocket, A silent electric car.
And a phone ringing in a garden.
Right. Never ignore the phone ringing. Or maybe always ignore it. I don't know anymore.
Maybe just check the caller ID first.
Yeah.
And maybe stick to bottled water for a few days.
Solid advice. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the darkness behind the sanctuary. Stay safe, watch out for silent cars, and we'll catch you on the next one.